All right, welcome everybody. This is the Thursday, December 11th, 2025 meeting of the Somerville Fair Housing Commission. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this meeting of the Somerville Fair Housing Commission will be conducted via remote participation. We will have an audio recording available upon request as soon as possible after the meeting. I'd like to officially call the meeting to order. I'll ask permission from my fellow commissioners to do that.
Aye.
Okay.
So the meeting is called to order. And our first item is to review the draft minutes from the meeting on November 20th. And I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'm okay with them the way they are.
Commissioner Roner moves to approve. Patrice?
I second.
Okay, and I'll make that unanimous. Moving on to our standing items. For anybody who's watching this now or in the future, I want to remind you or inform you that the Somerville Fair Housing Commission has a Facebook page. You can find it at Somerville Fair Housing Commission, all one word, on Facebook. And generally, there's a question of the week on Friday and an item of interest about fair housing on Monday and occasional other items. Since our last meeting was a fairly short amount of time ago, I'm going to skip over doing a Facebook page update this time in the interest of getting to some of the other items on the agenda, but we will come back to that at our next meeting. I'd like to ask our able staff person, Shannon Lawler, to do the review of calls and complaints she's received since the last meeting.
Yeah, so since the last meeting, we've only received one. And this complaint actually didn't come directly as a complaint. It was someone who called me for a question about inclusionary housing and then happened to mention that they were discriminated against in their previous housing before they were evicted. So it is past when MCAD can take cases. So it's past the 300-day mark. And it's past when HUD can take cases too, because it happened a little over a year ago. But still, I think worth talking about. This person applied with their partner. They're gay, and their partner, after their partner passed away, the property manager at the property told him that they wish they had never rented to people like him. And then following that, there was related to non-payment of rent and some other things, eviction proceedings, and then the person was evicted. And those two things may not be related, but could be. And that person was in contact with Castles, and did tell them about the discrimination. But I think since they were evicted, the focus was more on where they can go, and where they can move. So yeah, it's not really something that we can do anything about directly right now, because it has been a while. But I do think that this is something that, if we have more awareness building, that people can come to us if something like this happens. So they have more than one advocate in their corner, coming at it from different angles. I don't know. I think that it would just be good for us for people to know that we exist and that they can reach out to us as a resource, like right when things happen. And if it is, if it did turn out that it was related to their eviction proceeding, that can strengthen their case. So that's all I have on that one. But yeah, does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I have a thought moving forward. And it's really easy for me to have thoughts moving forward right now. But Shannon, you and everyone who came before you has a list of what the complaints are. And if they could be capsulized into like one sentence. Gay couple, one partner dies, other partner not only has to grieve, but faces discrimination. What do you do? It might be a really interesting memo to send to everyone in housing. Because this was an inclusionary call that showed up to be a discrimination thing. And it might be good for everybody to be reminded what discrimination looks like in the field. Because it's like up in our, it's up in the air with these are the classes and these are the this, but this is what happens around. Because I've seen that one before. With a couple and one person, actually it was one person who moved out and the other person got a barrage of anti-transphobic shit and couldn't pay the rent because she was by herself. So I've seen that one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
I think
it probably
that's a good
happens a
idea.
lot with domestic partners. Breakups, deaths, and not paying the rent go together. But let's keep moving.
Well, and Patrice, any thoughts or comments?
I just want to say I agree with what Rona had said, and actually thinking about what it looks like to like have that kind of like database, if you will, of like a one sentence summary of cases and like who has access to review it on like on the city of Somerville staffer side, and who it gets shared with, and how do these cases continue to get added to this kind of like database, because maybe there are other departments that are getting kind of fair housing things that are kind of tacked on to like what they're dealing with right now. So maybe there's a way to have like a shared database. So I like Rona's idea, and I'm thinking about how to actually have it happen. And I think it would be really useful. And also, like, I didn't think about till now that those three things totally go together, like a breakup, a death, and like payment of rent. Of course, like I didn't think about it till now, but of course those things go together. So thank you, Rona, for bringing it up.
I've been there and done that.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to mention too that in addition to sort of floating the case around city staff, we could add that to our fair housing questions of the week roster. Just the way that that has been done. Originally, I kind of compiled a bunch of questions from here and there, and then added to them as more people asked, or as I noticed something that seemed to be a topic of conversation and phrased it. So we have, and this goes to capacity building. Anybody who takes this over after me will have the spreadsheet of these questions, and some are specifically relevant to certain times of year. Can the landlord force you to shovel snow? Stuff like that. And some are, or a moving out. That kind of thing. But this, things like what you just mentioned, Shannon, we could, if we phrase that succinctly, we could add that to the list. And I would just, say to all the commissioners as well as to Shannon, if you see something come up and you think it could be phrased in terms of a question and answer, let me know so that we can put it into the rotation. Because some of the questions have been going, up there every year for several years now, and it would be good to refresh it a bit.
Yeah. And if we do ask this one as a question, maybe, change some of the details for this
Of
person's
course.
privacy. But yeah, I think that's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you. So unless there are any other comments on the calls and complaints, let's move on to some of our specific activities. One thing that we put fairly high because we wanted to make sure we would have more people here and not like talk about this at the end of the meeting was scheduling our 2026 meeting dates. Down in the announcements, you'll see the next meeting is scheduled for January 22nd, and it should say 2026. That was just a typo, I'm sure. So make sure you have January 22nd on your calendars. And in general, our approach has been to have the fourth Thursday of the month, usually later in the day than we're doing today. And to change that in November and December, if and when it conflicts with Thanksgiving and Christmas, and occasionally in September if it conflicts with the Jewish holiday. But what do people think? Do we want to continue that approach, or is there something that we need to change about it, or that you'd prefer to change about it?
I want to say this approach works. Like, to me, it works. I don't know if it works for other commissioners, but for me, it does. The fourth Thursday still works. And us doing a changeover or discussing a change in schedule when we see it, like either the month before or the month before that, it still works for me. But I'm not sure about if it works for the other commissioners, if they may need more notice, but it works for me.
And Commissioner Ronan, what's your experience with this?
I think it's a little bit of a moving target because we've had a lot of people with the city position. We used to have a city position and a city nonprofit position. And both of those people got time, they could work their work schedules around it. But people like Patrice and Kay have 9 to 5 jobs, so it makes it that much harder. So I think the new commissioner needs to be checked to see if the middle of the day works for that person, or whether we need to do like a 5 p.m. meeting so that somebody can just stay at work and do it remotely from work, and then commute home later. Because we used to have it like 4 to 5, which I think was sort of the worst of both worlds. Because it was like right at the end of the day, and then you were like in the teeth of commuting. So I think those are the considerations, and it may be part of the interview process is figuring out what works.
All right, so let's keep it scheduled as it has been for now, but with the note that once we fill the new position, we should revisit it. I mean, refill the position that Rona is vacating. We'll be checking in with the group as a whole. All right, thank you, folks. Now, I want to hand it over to Gloria from Metropolitan Area Planning Commission. Am I getting that right? And incidentally, we referred to CASTLES earlier. That stands for Cambridge and Somerville Legal Services, for anybody who's not familiar with the acronym. But Gloria has been ably consulting with us and assisting us to figure out how to improve our outreach and our impact in the coming year. So please take it from there, and I'll just sit back unless you need some help steering something.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. And thank you all again for having me join this commission meeting. I think the goal for today was twofold as far as our outreach and engagement work together. The first was to revisit our conversation from last month's meeting about identifying dates and times for the events coming up in April for Fair Housing Month. And I know the commissioners have all been doing some outreach and coordination with different partners to get those events scheduled. And then the second item on my agenda was to just have share an update on the informational brochures handouts that we had talked about last month as well. So maybe starting with that first piece, I would actually turn it back to you all for any updates on those events that we had discussed. So the tabling event at Mama's, the COA program, some kind of an engagement with CAS, and one with the city social workers. Maybe we can start with any updates, and then we can sort of zoom out a little bit too and talk about the overall calendar of events for this upcoming spring.
Well, we have one thing, which is we got an email from Carrie O'Donnell, who's the adult education coordinator at the Somerville Library, who wants us to nail down dates ASAP because it has to do with library overtime and things like that. So, so if we're going to use the auditorium in the central library, we sort of need to decide on a date. We can do whatever we want with the time during the time, but if we're going to nail down the facility, we're under the gun.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
So
otherwise,
I guess,
2 weeks.
oh, sorry, what was that?
Otherwise, nothing has happened on this front in a couple of weeks.
Got it. Yeah, I wonder if it actually then makes sense to talk about the broader scope of events first, since I know last time we had talked about these engagement events, tabling opportunities in coordination with other organizations. Especially given Commissioner Rona stepping back from this commission. I'm curious if you all have a sense of whether there's capacity to run those events that the commission has done in the last few years at the library, or if it feels like these other events that we're planning in coordination with the community-based organizations we've been developing relationships with will be sufficient to sort of reach the folks that the commission wants to reach in the April Fair Housing Month, in lieu of the events that have been done in the past. Sort of a capacity question, I think, at this point for the group.
I want to say that's a hard question. And it also has to do with identity. So it's not just about like capacity, it's about how are we identified as like a commission, because those events at the library are something that we are identified as doing. I mean, so we have to think about capacity. What can we really do? Like in a perfect world, it would be yes, we have these partnerships that we're building and we're tabling, and we're cooperating with other organizations, and we have our own thing too. We have our own event. And like, I would love for us to do both. Can we do both? And I'm thinking about my capacity and how much time I can like put into it. Because the loss of like Rona, like who put so much of her energy and time that we're really grateful into like not just communicating with the library staff, because I don't even know our contact person's name over at the library. Like I don't know everything that Rona knows. Um, and I'm trying to think of like also like with Rona like stepping down and moving on to another commission, like, and how do we fill that capacity? Like, who is the most appropriate person to fill this capacity, or do we kind of split up some of these duties that that Rona does? I think we should still do it. I think that we can still have these events, but I don't know how. But I think we should. I want us to. And I wonder if, um, especially as we have, especially as we're cultivating these new partnerships, I wonder if because we're going to table at their events and be in contact with them, if they'd be willing to help out with some labor. Like, I don't know, maybe that could be a solution. I'm not sure if we can ask. But I want us to do it. I want us to continue to like do the Color of Law event, read along. And I also want us to continue to do the event where we inform tenants, the Know Your Rights events, right? The kind of like continuation of the Know Your Rights events, because I feel like that's part of our identity as a commission. How how that labor continues to get done and that identity gets expressed after Rona leaves, I think we'll figure it out. I think we have no choice. If we set our mind on how to do it, I think we figure it out. Um, and how much time do we have to figure it out? Let's just be real. How much time do we have to like figure out these growing pains? Not just like when Rona is leaving, but also the timetable of when things have to get done and decided. So a timetable would be amazing, and I think we should move forward with these events, and we should know everything that Rona knows. These are my thoughts, and I pass it on to someone else to say something.
And I'll tell you, it's about 6 to 10 hours to put total to pull off the reading thing. You know, not counting reading the book. It's not bad because, and the contact person in the library is Carrie O'Donnell.
Okay.
And Carrie does all the logistics. So Carrie gets the projector, gets the seats in the right place, gets a table if we're having food, that kind of thing. So we just have to show up with something to spark a discussion if the discussion doesn't spark itself. So it's not so bad. And we have dovetailed it into, like last year, we dovetailed it into something Janine did, which was she got herself and some and a speaker from City of Somerville to talk about their sort of housing insecurity journeys. And then people just talked about their housing insecurity journeys for a lot of the conversation. And that wouldn't be that hard to do again.
That was actually something I was going to ask you, Rona, was I know you're not going to be working on it in the same way. I also know you're not dropping off a cliff, and if people have questions, they'll be able to, you know, pick your brains on this. But with having done particularly the book related event for 3 years now, something like that.
4, I think.
Oh, in any case, yeah, and our
hold on, I got to mute my phone. I got to remember how.
Oh, okay. But I'm going to say to everybody, our contact person at the library, you know, this is kind of a well-worn groove by now. So I'm wondering, I agree with sort of the implication of what you're saying, Patrice, that you can't have a project if nobody takes it on. You know, if nobody's going to take it on, you have to just scratch it off and say, too bad. But, you know, if it's not too heavy a lift, we might be able to keep at least the Color of Law event.
Yeah, I think what I would suggest, also getting at Patrice's question around sort of process and building in that timeline for this year and also future years, what I would probably suggest is replacing one of the other events that we had talked about last week with at least one of the library events. It might be ambitious to try to do both this year, is what it's sounding like based on this conversation. But if we can at least continue the book event, and then maybe next year, once you all have, you know, this rhythm under your belt of going through the planning process as we had laid out last month. And I can pull that slide back up again if it's helpful to have a refresher, since Patrice, I think you may have dropped off at the end of the conversation last month. But I guess what I'm envisioning is if we can build in this process in your monthly meetings going forward from November through March each year, have sort of certain milestones that the commissioners try to meet with the support of Shannon, of course. That might help with building some of that capacity and that institutional knowledge transfer, so that in future years, other commissioners have a sense of when those milestones are coming up, who to reach out to, et cetera. But for the purposes of it being a learning year this year with the other commissioners taking on that knowledge, Rona, that you're passing on, it may be worth considering just uh, bringing down the number of projects of engagement events rather that the commission is trying to focus on in the next couple of months. Does that make sense?
Can I chime in on that?
Please.
I did. Patrice and I heard back from Cass,
Okay.
and by early next week, they're in the process of doing like a 6-month plan for the beginning of 2026, and so by early next week, they're supposed to get back to us and talk to us about that. So I'd be optimistic that in addition to the book event, the event at the Cass movement meeting could happen. And I don't know
Right.
where we are with the other ones, the mamas and the social workers and the landlords.
Mm-hmm.
Can I add something? I think a big part of the lift for the 2 library events is marketing them and getting people to come. Which like a part of what we have with the events that are planned for this year is like a built-in audience. Like the social workers is a built-in audience, cast is a built-in audience. But the landlord targeted event, which I think we were already thinking of maybe not doing, does not have a built-in audience. So maybe we can somehow incorporate that into the book event. But yeah, I would say that that's the biggest lift is trying to get people in seats, and seeing how we can bring them in and keep them interested.
Yeah, I think
Oh, go ahead.
just two thoughts quickly. One, I think the landlord event we were considering sort of integrating with the Council on Aging event
Yeah, sorry.
in the last conversation. No, that's okay. So I think we can capture that audience a little bit that way, and then maybe think about a broader landlord targeted engagement event outside of the April timeline, just given that it'll, I think, take a little bit more work and preparation on the commission's part to put something like that together, given that it's a pretty big shift, as we've talked about in previous meetings, from what historically the sort of messaging and framing that the commission has used might be. And hopefully we can get Rona's help with some of that from her background and experience working in real estate too before she leaves the commission, and getting us prepared for that, whatever that engagement ends up looking like with landlords.
Can I quickly say, years
Please.
ago, the commission did routinely do landlord events back when we had a much smaller staff allotment, but I think Vicky Wyrie, who's been retired from that position for a while, in addition to helping out, getting us into the schools for the April is Fair Housing Month poster contest, she also was pretty instrumental in setting up training events for the landlords. And I think that if I remember correctly, it was sort of the carrot and stick approach, nice rental property you got there. You really wouldn't want to run into problems with the law over it. Let us help you avoid doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just some historical memory.
That's great.
I also think because I sort of have a fantasy, and I think I talked to both Shannon and Gloria about it. I have a fantasy that mom and pa landlords, for want of a heterosexist term, mom and pa landlords don't know what they're supposed to do. And if we can work with the city and get these are the 3 things that should be included in your lease, and these are the 3 things that should be attached to your lease, and this is why, and we get that on one page of a website that says the Fair Housing Commission presents how landlords can follow the rules, including the fair housing rules. And we have a QR code for that. We stick it on everything we've got that says a message from the Fair Housing Commission to landlords. that could build an audience of, let's talk about what's in here. And I think it may be a 2-year cycle to get there.
Right.
Because it's a matter of finding the landlords who are just sort of hunkering down, hoping the city never notices them.
And I think we've started moving in that direction
Yeah.
by talking to the neighborhood association, the neighborhood councils, and
Yeah.
Somerville EMVs. But yeah, I think I would agree, Rona, that it's going to be a bit of a
It's going to be a collection of
yeah,
people.
exactly. But Dennis, if you can dig up any materials that were used in that, earlier phase of doing the landlord outreach that we could perhaps use to inform or build on for this new iteration, sounds like that could be really beneficial as a starting point. The one other thing I did want to mention as far as integrating both these events that have a built-in audience with other, co-hosted with other organizations, as Shannon was mentioning, while also retaining the commission's identity of hosting these events at the library, there's a little bit of built-in marketing there too. I'm not sure that Patrice, to your earlier question or curiosity about whether we could ask those other organizations to pitch in with labor, I'm not sure that there's much sort of event planning and coordination that they'd be able to lean in on, but I do think they could potentially help with spreading the word then about the book event or whatever it ends up being, which it sounds like is one of the bigger parts of what takes up time and effort in putting those events together. So it sounds like that could work out well and reach a little bit of a different audience, perhaps, than what it has historically. Dennis, did you want to jump in?
Commissioner Rona, if I remember correctly, racial and the city's racial and social justice department co-sponsored these events with us last year and provided food. And I don't know how much outreach they did, but
They did a little, and what we did for the last 3 years is we have local press. So we sent a press release to local press, so it was in the the Somerville Times and the Cambridge Day, and that kind of thing. So putting it in the local paper, actually 2 years ago, picked up somebody who is a faculty member at Tufts, who came with a lot to offer. So it's sort of funny the way that goes, and we might want to reach out to Tufts also, come to think of it. But last year I also reached out to the commissions. So the Human Rights Commissions sent a couple people to it, and Racial Justice did a lot of advertising and had like an extra 6 people there who were either staff or people who go to a lot of events that they do. So those are the kinds of things. And the flyering went out earlier last year, translated, and I think that helps a lot.
Do you
our
remember
timing
when the
on
flyers went out?
the timing on translating flyering for the event has been like, we've gotten it like 4 days before the event, and that just doesn't cut it. So getting that out early, I would really want to get the date out, like starting in January, so that it's translated by February, so that the flyers go out in March.
Yeah, Gloria, I think we did like the first round of flyering 3 weeks before the event and the second round 2 weeks or something along those lines. And RSJ did help a lot with the actual physical flyering.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
so that was an improvement, a big improvement.
A big improvement over a couple years before that.
But the commissioners heard me say, I always think in terms of good, better, best. So we moved at least to good, maybe to better by doing that, but we're nowhere near best yet.
Always room for improvement. I
Yeah,
find that my best always moves as I move.
I I mean, the sort of pivotal study on advertising is things don't stick until you see it 3 times.
Mm.
So, you know, stuff needs to be out in the middle of March for middle of April. And we haven't achieved that yet.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that actually lines up quite well with the timeline that I had proposed the last time we met around, last month, each commissioner signing up to lead and support one event. This month, hopefully deciding on some dates and times for each of the events. And then that way in January, we can, develop those outreach materials, develop facilitation plans for the events, and then launch the marketing in February. And then do a final round of outreach in March. I think I had sent this outline out in the email after our meeting as well. So one, just wondering if that timeline still sounds good for folks. If that's something that the commission wants to try to commit to this year and hopefully build into the regular, meeting cadence going forward and planning for Fair Housing Month each April. And secondly, if we maybe want to make some adjustments to which events the commissioners have signed up for so that you all can account for the book event as well at the library.
Well, who signed up for the book event?
I
We
don't think we
didn't have,
discussed it.
Oh,
yeah.
nobody is. Okay. Nobody wants to step into my footprint.
So
there
I'm having, oh, sorry, Shannon, go on.
I just want to ask Lori, could you pull up what everyone signed up for so that they can see it?
Yes, I was just looking for that.
Sorry, Patrice, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. I just had like a quick observation about some of our events, like what our book event. Um, I love that it's in person, and I wonder if we could also push more for it to be online too. We I'm just thinking about those folks that may not show up because of the political climate. Um, and we still want to be able to like reach them. So I'm thinking about how to make the online engagement as good as like the in-person engagement when we have the book event. And also thinking about keeping in mind with what's happening in the United States, like how we market this. I love the QR codes. I just want to put a QR code everywhere. So I just want us to kind of like keep that in mind, and have these things that we think about this and think about who we're trying to reach, and who comes to the book events. I mean, is it possible to like market to have more landlords come, or like how do we do this? Who do we want our target audience to be for like the Color of Law book event in April? Just thoughts.
Yeah, I think that's a great question.
Yeah, that one of the discontents is that we're sort of talking to the same people because it's self-selecting people who say, "Oh, that's a cool book. I'll go. I should know this stuff." So we get sort of a self-selected group. I'm not sure if hybrid is feasible for this because it could end up being simultaneously translated, and it could get very complicated because we've had Spanish language translators there before. So I think we either have to do it all online or we do have to do it all in person because I'm not even sure if I have to check to see if somebody can check if the library has an owl to make it possible to have a group discussion online. Because without an owl, it's sort of hopeless.
The other option is to use breakout groups to make a hybrid option work with interpretation into different languages. That's something that I have definitely done with hybrid events. But I think that is a good, an important consideration based on the landscape analysis that we did earlier this year. Just the level of fear right now, I think, is going to really inform who ends up showing up to events like this. So, something to think about, especially as it relates to that target audience question.
So looking at these events and, what we were talking about trying to set our sights on what is doable. And also, consider reaching different audiences. I think, again, as of this moment, I think the CAS movement meeting is likely to be possible. I think my guess would be that the Council on Aging program would be possible. We'd have to hear from Janine, because she's taking the lead on that. And we're talking about the Color of Law book discussion in some form. Patrice, have you heard anything? Have you been in touch with the mamas about that possible event?
Rona did a great introduction, and we have been in touch with Crystal, who is the go-between between the Mamas organization and I guess other organizations, and they want to like meet before the next pop-up store, and the next pop-up store is not due to meet until I want to say after winter, because they just had a very successful one. So they want to meet beforehand and see if this partnership would be beneficial. And I think, oh, sorry, and a thing popped up on my phone. And I think it would be great if during that meeting with them, once it gets set up, that we talk about how the issues of not just food insecurity, but like financial insecurity, also kind of goes along with being discriminated against. There's like overlap in some way. And I've been trying to do my research on mutual aid to see like how best we can be a good partner to them and collaborate with them well, and to make sure that not only we get a chance to spread the word about fair housing and build trust in the community, but also that we have Reese's for those folks that need the mutual aid that's happening in Somerville, and also a small part of Medford too, because Mama serves Somerville and Medford. So yes, so we're hoping to hear back. So sorry, I got long-winded there for a moment with my thoughts and feelings, but Rona did a really good introduction, and we're hoping to meet with them before the winter ends so that we can plan something for the next store, for the next pop-up.
So if I may, that sounds to me like the landlord education event and the Mama's Free Store event may or may not be April events.
Mm-hmm.
Am I getting that right?
Right.
Right.
And it sounds more likely that the CAS movement meeting could happen. We haven't talked, but we're getting encouraging signs there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about the timing on Council on Aging, but I don't think they're that scheduled in advance. And so I would say, and maybe it's just because those are the ones I've been involved with that I know more about them, but I would say that CAS, Council on Aging, and the Color of Law book discussion at the library are probably at this moment look like the most feasible for April. What do other people think? Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
And not because any of the others are less important, but just a question of timing.
Yeah, agreed, Dennis. And just because it doesn't happen in April doesn't mean we're not going to still cultivate that partnership. It just means that it happens at another time.
Yeah.
Can I
And
ask?
again, if the Mama's Free Store happens in March, it could actually be a really great lead up to advertise the April events further as well. Same for any of the other events and pop-ups that come up. Shannon, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, would we still want to do the Mama's Free Store leading up to April? I think personally that it would be a good idea. And yeah, it would be good to like dip our toe in before we dive into April. The other thing is it's hard to say how the social worker training scheduling is going because we don't have either of Kay or Janine here.
Right.
So I'm not really sure. I do think that's definitely a worthwhile thing to do, but it doesn't have to be April.
It also, in terms of things that are essentially tabling events, like the Mamas and Civic Day and some of the other things we've been doing, once we had our sort of box of things that we put on the table, the tabling events sort of run themselves. You just have to have the bodies there. And my sense is with the Color of Law discussion, we sort of gotten to that point where there's a metaphorical box of this is what we pull out and this is what happens, and whatever happens is good enough. And you don't have to stress about perfection about this because it's just about engaging with people.
That's a great point, Rona. You've already done a lot of the groundwork to set the group up. Recognizing that Kay and Janine are not here, I
And
wonder if one of them,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
please.
I'm gonna reach out to them and see if we can get a report back from them, outside of the meeting.
That sounds great. Yeah, I wonder if we can revisit some of the sort of assignments and confirm that these are the events that we want to proceed with after this meeting, and then move forward with identifying and nailing down some dates over email after today's session, just to really set us up well in January to be able to move forward with actually planning the content of the events and doing that outreach with the dates fully committed. Because that's really the biggest moving piece at this point, I think, before diving into the fun aspects of planning these events and engagement sessions.
Oh, I have
So,
oh,
go ahead,
sorry.
Patrice. No, go ahead.
I just want to like circle back to what Rona was talking about securing the times with the library, how they need to know, I'm guessing ASAP. Um, is this something we have to decide at this meeting? Can this be can the decision to either have the Color of Law event be completely hybrid? I mean, sorry, not completely hybrid because that doesn't make any sense. Like to be completely online or like completely in person. Um, do we have to make that decision this meeting, or can we make a decision in our January meeting?
My sense and I think I forwarded Shannon the email, so I have to check to see what Carrie said. But I think she needs to tell her managers if she's going to be signing up for overtime to do this. So I think the real question is about Saturdays. Because we could do a Thursday night. If we're using any city staff, we should do a Thursday night, so they're not in overtime. So we should, if we want to plug in a Thursday night, we can just hold it. And then what we're doing with it won't matter.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to look at a April calendar and make sure we get a Thursday night that's not in the middle of Passover.
Yeah.
We're good. Actually, it can be in the middle of Passover. It just can't be at the beginning of Passover. And then we can tell Carrie.
Okay. All right.
So
we got,
let's get a calendar up.
yeah,
I'll
we
pull
can
it
look
up.
at it now. Or
But hold on a second.
Yeah.
Actually, the Jewish calendar list. I'll be right back.
Okay.
all right. And let me
on my calendar. He's looking. April. Okay, Bing, April. I think Passover is the first week of April. Or Easter's the first week of April. They're close together this year.
Yeah, so the first 2 days of Passover include Thursday, April the 9th. So we wouldn't want to do that Thursday evening.
Are you sure?
Well, actually,
I think it's April 1st is
no.
Passover.
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. No, that's the end of the holiday. No. So yeah, so Thursday the 2nd is the one that we would want to avoid.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I double checked it and you're right.
Okay, so that's the only, so Thursday the 2nd is the only blockout date.
Patrice, you're muted.
Sorry, I did not know that I was muted. I was trying to like look at my calendar. So I was thinking, can we make a decision between scheduling between the 16th or the 23rd of April if those dates work for us and we can hold it? If one of those two.
Which one? So you want, hold on, you want 16 or 23?
Yeah. The only thing to keep in mind there is Monday the 20th is a holiday. Probably not going to affect anything, but
All right, I'll write to Carrie and CC Patrice. So Patrice has all the contact info.
Yeah.
can you copy me
just-
too, please?
Oh yeah, and you too. You
Thank
get
you.
copied on everything, Jen.
Thank you.
I started speaking. Sorry, I'm using my phone and I'm like looking at stuff, so it's automatically muting me when I'm like taking a closer look at stuff. So I was asking you, like, Shannon, what works for you, the 16th or the 30th, the 16th or the 23rd? Like, what works for your schedule? Like, because I want to make sure that you're there, and also that I want to make sure that you're there and that you're considered too when we're scheduling these things.
Either of those should be fine for me. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere on that holiday. Just I was thinking like if people were going to take a week off, but I feel like that's rare for Patriots Day.
Oh, that's school vacation week.
Oh,
Maybe that is something we should keep in mind.
Yeah, that's marathon week. We don't.
So we
want
should do the
23rd.
16th then.
16th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it's decided.
That's
Okay,
good.
cool.
Yeah, we've done that
Good
marathon
catch.
week before and nobody's in town.
That's good to know.
We'll run out of
What a
town.
good thought.
Okay.
Yeah, put it
All
in
right.
my calendar too.
All right, that can be my last official act.
And I want to volunteer, but I'm not sure whether, this doesn't fit neatly into lead or supporter. There are specific roles I'd be happy to do. I'd be happy to facilitate the discussion, happy to help with the publicity. probably somebody else should deal with the logistics. But I don't, as Rona says, Carrie is at the library is really on top of that, so I don't think that's heavy lifting.
I feel like I'm excited about it, but also I need to be realistic about what I can and can't do. But I'm excited about it and I want to help. Um, I wonder if we could have like more than like two of us work on it. I wonder if it could be like a three-person thing, right? Who can we voluntold?
I mean, and keep in
Well,
mind, I'll be working on it too. I think what
right.
would be most helpful is to have a commissioner who's doing like a lot of marketing for it and maybe connecting with other city departments or other community organizations to advertise it would be really helpful for what we're doing. And Dennis, if you can facilitate, that'd be amazing.
Well, and I'd work on both of those things, but I think that somebody who, like Janine, who's more internal to the city and who has also spoken not at the book, yeah, at the book event last year, you know, she might be a good choice if we can interest her in it.
Yeah.
So, Gloria, where are we with what you wanted to cover today?
Yeah, I think we're in a good place. We have the ball rolling on a number of these events. Just need to follow up with some of the commissioners that weren't able to attend today to nail down dates and waiting for others to get back to us as well to nail down dates. But it sounds like we have one date nailed down, so that's great. And by January, we'll hopefully have a few others to give us a good calendar for the month of April. And then we can work towards getting all of the material that we'll need to run the events themselves starting in January and market the events too, of course. I think for the informational flyers and brochures, that's something that I can send out via email after this so that everyone can sort of take a look and send me comments individually, just since we're out of time for today. But this was really productive, I thought.
Thank you so much, Gloria.
Of
And
course.
commissioners and Shannon, do you have another 5 or 10 minutes to just touch on other things on the agenda, or do we need to adjourn?
I have to run. I can stay for another 2 minutes, but I do have a housing division meeting that I have to get to.
Do not want to keep you from that. So really quickly, the thing on the agenda that says letter from mayor-elect to commission chairs is actually the other way around. The commission chairs from the Commission for Women, the Commission for Persons with Disabilities, and Fair Housing are putting together a letter that we hope will go out to Mayor-elect Jake Wilson next week, asking him to streamline the process of getting new members nominated and their appointments approved. Two, to seek out interpretations of the open meeting law that would allow working groups to act between meetings of the full commission, even if they are groups that might be big enough to constitute a quorum, which in our group means 3 people. And third, to support city employees who staff the commission in a manner that preserves continuity and prevents constant turnover in the staffing position. So I just wanted to make sure that commissioners were aware of that. Shannon, is there anything that you absolutely need for us about the FY 24-25 annual reports?
Did everyone read the FY 24 annual report, and could we vote on whether we can send it to the city council?
Can we do it with 3?
Yes, if we're unanimous.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah, let her rip.
Thank you.
So we will, everybody, I hope, has made notes of who they're supposed to talk to and what they're supposed to find out between now and the next meeting. Shannon is our focus of communications for all this stuff. Thank you again to Gloria. Thank you a tremendous amount to Commissioner Rona, not only for current meeting, but for years of service. And we will continue to rely on you for institutional memory, as well as, snarky remarks and other contributions.
Yeah,
that you
I
make.
call it hysterical memory.
Yes. All right. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, I'll second.
Make it unanimous. So the
Okay.
meeting is officially adjourned. I have it at 12:05 p.m. Thank
Okay.
you, everybody. See you
Yeah.
January 22nd.